I'm really excited to let the David Starr fans know and talk about this number 75 Spears Craftsman truck that ran in its heyday with David being the pilot and leading this truck to not just one but two victories.
And I can tell you guys, if you're watching this YouTube version right now, that is not a green screen. That is the real truck. That is a real garage. That is the real vehicle that David raced in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And it is so cool to have that as the background. And before we came on this week, we were talking about it, Mike, Tyler, and David. Man, all the guests we've had, that background that you have right there is pretty hard to top.
Thank you. It's really exciting to just even own this truck. And I think it was more exciting uncovering the history and finding out the winning history of it. Because when I first set eyes on it, I only knew that it was a Spears truck and I had no idea what races it ran, where it ran. And so when I started digging, this treasure trove of information came out from one guy. And that guy was Jason Trincheri. He is the number 11 Kaulig Xfinity crew chief. And Jason had every record, everything on Spears when he was there. He was a young engineer back in those days. And David was a young up-and-coming star. And he kept everything. And it was Jason who really helped me uncover the history of the truck.
So let's start with this, Mike. How did you find the truck? Let's begin there.
So one day, just sitting upstairs watching TV with the wife, and I'm jumping on Facebook, and the power of the internet led me to a page called Street Legal NASCAR Race Trucks or something like that. So I went on there, and when I was on there, people were talking about looking for street legal trucks. A guy in Ohio piped in with a picture of a Napa truck, this truck behind me, and said, I got a truck for sale. And that sparked my interest. So I reached out to him, and his name was Mike Mueller. And I reached out to Mike and started talking to him about the truck. And this was in December of last year. And so between December and now, here we are in April, the truck already looks like this. And I've been going full speed since then.
That is an amazing truck. And like we were saying before we introduced you, so a little more on that backstory. We had gotten a fan question from Mike for the Ask David segment, and it mentioned in there that you had this truck and just wanted to bring it to David's attention. And I got to tell you, Mike, and everyone listening, when we got off the air of that show that night, I believe it was the Daytona show, we got off the air, and that's all David was talking about, that truck. He goes, we got to find out more about that truck.
It was really interesting as the history unfolded, and I really wanted to know, like, okay, I know it's a Spears truck, and so once I was told that by Mike Mueller, yeah, it was a Spears truck because it still retained everything on the inside, all the baby blue underneath the hood, the fenders, the undercarriage, everything was still the Spears blue. So when I started speaking with Mike, he's like, oh, it's a Spears truck. And he didn't really think much about it. And me, I'm a purist. And I'm like, okay, somebody drove it. Let's find out who drove it. So when I jumped online, it was Jason from the Xfinity car, the number 11 Xfinity car. And Jason's like, I have all the records for that. And so that's kind of what kind of led me that way really quickly.
So let me ask David this. David, where would you have guessed this truck was if you had any idea? Like, what's the process typically when you guys retire a truck or a vehicle in NASCAR? Where do they usually go from there?
Man, it's a very interesting question, and a question that's really challenging to answer. Driving schools, my driving school, Team Texas High Performance Driving Schools, a lot of the former Cup cars I have in my school. But, it's interesting what Mike has there, because over the years, I've been doing this 25 years, and people ask me, hey, where are some of your favorite race cars, race trucks, and I'm like, man, I own one of them back from early on. I have just one, and I've driven, hundreds and hundreds of different types of NASCAR race cars for different owners. And, you know, and people ask me, hey, that truck you run second with at IRP or, you know, whatever race. And I said, man, I really don't know. I don't know what happened to those race vehicles, you know, and, you know, sometimes when a team shuts down and you know, the team doesn't continue to race in NASCAR, they sell off the assets and different people buy the machinery, the equipment, engines, vehicles, you know, and you know, there's all kinds of stories of different racing teams and where these cars end up, you know, but I don't really have a lot of information on most of all the cars I've driven over the years. And so to sit here and see that truck in the background, and when I learned about it and heard and started seeing pictures, and then Jason approached me. Jason's my good friend at the racetrack. He was telling me about Mike, and he was so enthused. I couldn't wait to see it. And when I finally saw some pictures of it, I was just amazed on how original it was. You know, like Mike was saying, the inside of the truck underneath the hood. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's my truck. You know what I mean? I mean, I've drove for Wayne and Connie Spears for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I don't remember what it was, but you know, Wayne and Connie Spears, they did a lot for a lot of different drivers. You know, they had a lot of different drivers: Andy Houston, Kevin Harvick, you know, Marty Houston, Eric Amarillo, Dennis Setzer, on and on and on, you know. And I remember Kevin saying, hey, don't, you know, Harvick would tell me, hey, get in there and win a race or two because it's not going to last long. You know what I mean? Because they really didn't have a, you know, from what I understood, you know, Wayne and Connie really didn't marry themselves to just one driver. They changed drivers a lot, you know. And then Kevin would always come to me and say, hey, man, what have you done? How are you staying there that long? You know, and I don't know. It was just the love I had for the sport. I loved racing for Wayne and Connie Spears, and they had great equipment. And, you know, I was just so passionate and loved every minute of it that I don't know, you know, I guess that my passion was contagious to them. They kept me around because they felt sorry for me. Hell, I don't know. But man, what a great time, you know, early on in my career. Really, the Spears trucks and that time in NASCAR really put me on the map, you know. And man, I'm full for it. Never ever forget what Wayne and Connie, the opportunity they gave me, you know. But man, going back to the truck that Mike restored and bought, and you know, his passion for that truck is just amazing, because looking at it and seeing some pictures that he sent me, I mean, he put that thing identical to the way it was when I last drove it, and that's just amazing, you know. So to answer your question, Tyler, I don't know where you know 99% of the vehicles I raced over 25 years ended up, and who has them, and you know where they're at. A lot of them are you had to cut them up because they were so damaged that they were no good anymore. But the one Mike has there, man, that's pretty cool, you know, because I got a couple of my wins in that truck, and it's pretty cool that he has that truck and he's so passionate about it, and how, you know, how he put it back exact to the way it was when I last drove it is just amazing. And man, I'm just so impressed with Mike's passion and what he has there. It's just, you know, it's an amazing story, really.
So Mike, along those lines then of what David's talking about, the full restoration that you had to do, you were telling us before we went on the air that you had to take this truck somewhere and have somebody repaint it and everything, because it had, you know, been painted over, some different things there. How did you get it to look like what it did previously?
So I kind of lucked out, Tyler, because when I was trying to figure out, okay, the width of the stripes and how wide and how far off the cab and all those questions, believe it or not, when it was first sold and got painted this dark blue color, they just painted on top of it. So when I opened up the hatch to the fuel cell and started opening hatches up, right there was the original white, the original light blue, the original blue, and I knew all the measurements of everything. So I was able to figure out the width and the striping and the spacing of everything, all because it was still there underneath the panels right when I opened them up.
Wow.
Amazing.
And then who'd you find to be able to do the job for you?
So a friend of mine who paints some motorcycles for me, I asked him one day, I said, hey, his name's Ed. And I said, Ed, do you want to paint a race truck for me? And he was hesitant at first, but when he came over and he looked at it, and then I showed him photos of what I wanted to do, he's like, oh yeah, I'll paint it. And I didn't even have to fork out like a steak dinner or nothing, Tyler. He painted it.
That's incredible. And one of the things I also find fascinating with this, Mike, and feel free to elaborate more on this, is from what you said at the beginning, you were looking at street trucks on Facebook, right? This is a truck that, in one state in particular, can be run on the streets.
Absolutely, Tyler. This truck is street legal in the state of Ohio. I have an Ohio title. It had license plates on it. It had turn signals. It had headlights where the vents are on the front air dam. It had a windshield wiper in it as well. And it was a street legal truck. It had everything that you needed, a horn, everything. And so when I bought it, my intent was, okay, I'm going to leave it street legal and just drive it around. But soon after I started digging into the state of California of how hard this truly is to get this street legal in California, even though it has a title and it's street legal in another state, it was more of a challenge. And then, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to put it back to how it was race day. And then I'll just take it out to the track and I'll do some hot laps in it. I don't want to wreck it. To me, it's worth so much. It's so valuable as a collector piece. And that's kind of how that all came about with the title and the registration and all that. But inside the truck is the registration. It's sitting in there.
That is too cool.
And you drove this thing to the DMV once.
Yeah. So when I first got it, I convinced my buddy to follow me down because I was scared. I was like, let's see, somebody's going to see this and pull me over.